Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be talking about the Asian education model in South Korea. South Korea has been transformed since the Korean War from a poor agricultural society to an urbanized high-technology economy with a highly skilled workforce. South Korea's strong performance is that in the highly recognized Program for International Student Assessment, the PISA exam, has been a source of pride for many in the country. South Korea's academic success comes from their extreme education model. So what is the Asian education model? The one obvious difference between the education systems is the long hours of studies that South Korean students put in. According to Professor Joanna Lynch from Seoul National University of Science and Technology, the Asian education model consists of a rigorous work ethic, competitiveness, long hours of study, spirit to drive for perfection, is exam-oriented, and oftentimes student attends after-school hours in hagwons. A hagwon is the Korean word for a private academy in South Korea. Traditionally, foreigners who teach English in South Korea either worked at a public school or hagwons, though hagwons are not only for language. There are hagwons for all school subjects, and students will normally attend one depending on what subject the student's parents feel that they need help on. All that being said, this brings me to my research question. Does the Asian education model positively affect innovation and technology in South Korea? When comparing students from South Korea with students from England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, the South Korean students stand out substantially. A study by British Broadcasting Centre, the BBC, showed that the South Korean students to be in a higher league. As a quick test, a group of 6 teenagers, 15 and 16-year-olds from Garag High School and Haimin School tried several questions from this year's GCSE maths paper. All of them finished the questions in half the expected time. 4 scored 100%, the other 2 dropped just by 1 mark. Then they went on to further do more questions just for fun. Time and time again, it has shown that South Korean academic success comes from their extreme education model. According to Sir Michael Barber, a British educationist and founder of Chairman of Delivery Associates, Korean culture prizes effort above inherited smartness and believes long hours studying and hard work will eventually pay off. In a world without work, Derek Thompson establishes the idea of leisure and how that connects to modern-day schooling. The word school, he pointed out, comes from skol, the Greek word for leisure. We used to teach people to be free, he said. Now we teach them to work. The Asian education model precisely promotes just that. According to an article published by TED Conferences, the Korean model is grit and hard work. Talent is not a consideration. Because the culture believes in hard work and diligence above all, there is no excuse for failure. Children study year-round both in schools and outside of schools with tutors, and Koreans basically believe that I have to go through this really tough period to have a great future, says Andreas Scheisler, the Director of Education and Skills at PISA and Special Advisor on Education Policy at the OECD. It's a question of short-term unhappiness and long-term happiness. The Asian education model is also evident in Address to the Nation on Labor Day, a speech by Richard Nixon. In this speech, Nixon introduces the American work ethic, and he talks about how work ethic promotes productivity in a country. Nixon also says we welcome fair competition because it keeps us on our toes, because that alertness leads to increased productivity, because that in turn leads to a better life for the American working man and for his family. Many experts have said that what drives the Asian education model is competition. Professor Joanna Lynch says that the Korean education system, above all, is competitiveness. Competition and studying hard to be the best is deeply ingrained in the psyche of Korean students. The environment surrounding the child is actively involved and geared toward the same goal, to be test-ready and succeed. Students have a clear path and a clear purpose in mind at the start of their educational journey. So to answer my research question, whether or not the Asian education model positively affects innovation and technology in South Korea, according to a recent report published by the Bloomberg Markets here, South Korea has dominated the Bloomberg Innovation Index. South Korea remained the big winner, as you can see here, dominate the Bloomberg Index, topping the international charts in research and development intensity, value-added manufacturing, and patent activity, and with top 5 rankings in high-tech density, higher education, and research concentration. Scant progress in improving its productivity score, now number 32 in the world, helps explain why South Korea's lead has narrowed in the past year. Another positive aspect of the Asian education model is that it has successfully trained South Korean youngsters to tackle any given task thrown at them and flourish in their given environments. Unlike other countries where students are not given the opportunity to be challenged, Professor Joanna Lynch said that when she began teaching in South Korea, she was surprised at the differences between the education systems of the United States and South Korea. If you give South Korean students a calculus math problem, they can do it, whereas most American students could not. She also says it's common to see kindergarten students speaking and reading in multiple languages by the age of 4 and 5, whereas American kindergarten students are still typically learning the English alphabet. Professor Lynch thinks that there is a knee-jerk reaction that it's too hard and people do fail to see the benefits in the system. Kids are actually capable of a lot more than they think. The Asian education model provides a challenging environment for students to push boundaries and push their own capabilities to achieve things beyond their expectation. Given such an environment, South Korean students are able to achieve much greater things, resulting in better test scores and doing better further on in life, ultimately overall benefiting the country's innovation and technology level. As productive and ideal as the Asian education model appears, it is also seen to have its own negatives. At the expense of these phenomenal test results, South Korean students prove to have the highest amount of suicide rate. As seen in this chart here, Korea tops the charts in all of them. South Korea has a 28.9% rate of suicide, one of the highest in the OECD. As stated in Long Working Hours and Cancer Risk, a multi-cohort study, although there is no direct correlation between working long hours and high cancer risk, it does state that epidemiological research suggests that working long hours has a detrimental effect on health. Extended working hours have been reported as being associated with an increased incidence of coronary heart disease and stroke, preterm delivery, and in manual occupations type 2 diabetes, as well as a high prevalence of anxiety, depression, sleeping difficulties, and accidental injuries at work. The Asian education model promotes long hours of work and, as shown above, can cause serious health issues. The health of one could seriously affect their productivity in the workplace, and therefore in the long run could severely affect the level of innovation and technology of the country. Finally, in conclusion, countless tests and studies have indicated that the Asian education model is positive in that it promotes increased productivity and enhances the innovation and technology level of South Korea. Despite the negative effects such as suicide and long-term health issues that may come with the Asian education model, the overall results show it to be positive. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Charlotte, question. What challenges did you have to overcome in terms of finding information for your research question?
I think one of the biggest challenges I faced at first was really connecting the stimulus packet towards what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk a lot about the education system because I feel like that's an issue that's very prevalent in our society and really affects us. And it was really difficult, obviously, first of all, connecting the two between the work ethic of students and also the results of the education system. But when finding the works and the data, it was really hard to find credible sources, I think. A lot of people claim that the Tiger Mom effect or whatever, they all have their own idea of what this Asian education system really is. It was hard to find credible sources from, I don't know, psychologists or professors or just different opinions as well, because everyone seemed to have quite a big, a cloud, but there isn't really, credible sources that you can trust on, like research that's really done on the issue.
Okay. And after doing this research on this style of education, what connections can you make beyond the South Korean context?
I think a bit as I mentioned, I really connected with this topic and I wanted to talk about it just because other than connecting to South Korea and their innovation level and stuff, it connects to us as students now because we obviously are in an education environment, we're learning, further on, we all have our own work ethics, we're in different societies, our communities bring a different aspect towards our thinking and stuff. So I think learning about the Asian education model can be applied to all different education systems in a way, and also to us personally, taking from the positives of this education system or from another one and really making the one that's custom and perfect to us that we think works best. So I think in terms of connecting it to other things, it really can connect to us as students, especially because we're in the time when we need to really be developing our own work ethic and doing things productively and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Thank you.